Welcome, my dear viewer, to Dr. Paul Kibicho, PhD, QBE, HSC official YouTube channel. Today is the 24th or 25th of June 2023. I've just left the church and I thought it was good for me to come to my office and share with you a few things that have actually been taking place in my area of jurisdiction and work. I have handled so many cases pertaining to marriages, and the marriages that we have today are actually on the precipice of dissolution. And even that, many of us people, we are living in marriages where we are not comfortable. I can tell you this from a counselor's point of view, that many marriages are being faced by a myriad of problems. And what surprises me is that we do not seem to be taking notice of that. I remember at one time, our fourth president of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, when he was addressing the Akolino sect at Kasarani, he raised his voice and said that he was getting concerned the way families in Kenya are disintegrating. The current situation that we are in today has been experienced in other regions globally, such as the US, where divorce cases are the orders of the day. And for those who may not know, when I was actually doing my internship as a lawyer at Milimani Commercial Courts, I did encounter 11 divorce cases of young couples, middle-aged couples, and old couples. No one marries with an intention of divorcing. No one marries with a view of experiencing hardships and problems. But as nature would have it, now that has become the order of the day. So our biggest question is this. I will first of all, before I go to the other side of our agenda, talk about men, why men leave homes. Of course, if you go to the Bible has a lot when it comes to issues to do with marriage. Actually, the Bible talks about marriage. I'm in my office and I can even tell you from where I sit that what does God say about marriage? And if you allow me, because I'm in the office, the Bible teaches us that husbands love your wives. That is in the book of Ephesians chapter 5 verses 25. And teach the young women to love their husbands. So the Bible tells us that husbands must love their wives. And also that's in the book of Ephesians chapter 5 verses 25. And teach the young women to love their husbands. That is in the book of Titus chapter 2 verses 4. Love in marriage can be deeper and more selfless than in any other relationship. So God has talked about marriage. So marriage is not a creation of ordinary human beings. Marriage is an internal concept. It is meant to be laughing, note that. It is meant to be laughing, intimate, underline that word, intimate. It ought to be selfless relationship between a man and a woman that lasts through eternity. That is what the Bible envisages, that this is a relationship that goes up to eternity. But is that the case today? It is not the case. What's happening? I'll be addressing a few things why men, personally, have decided to leave their wives. And of course, on the other side of life, I'll also come and say why wives are leaving their husbands, because it's vice versa. That is what is happening. I have handled so many marriage cases in my office. I've had so many incidences that makes even me worry where our beautiful daughters will end up going. Because if this is the situation that we are currently experiencing, which has been there for some time now, then the red flag is up. It is the high time that either we ignored the red flag or we decided to see what we can do to save our marriages. I personally believe that a marriage can be saved. I personally believe that all of us can live in happy marriage. But there are things that ought to be done where most of us actually ignore. Most of us do ignore those aspects I'll be discussing here. So the Bible teaches us, as I have told in the book of Ephesians chapter 5:25, to love our wives. But the question is, what happens? So I will first of all talk about men who leave their husbands and the reasons behind them who leave their wives and the reason that phenomenon happens. Number one is cheating. If a husband realizes that his wife has been cheating on him, believe you me, it does not matter how much you go to the counselors. It does not matter how much you'll be talked to by your spiritual leaders and your spiritual fathers and what have you. But the fact of the matter is that marriage will never be strong again. So cheating is one thing. Allow me to dwell on this aspect of cheating. I have spoken to people who have been in that particular situation, and more often than not, people tend to regret why they did it. It is always greener out there than where you are. It has been repeatedly said that it is always greener out there than where you are. You only come to realize that the moment you go to that greener area that you were looking forward to, it has not become more greener. The same challenges that you left in your relationship are the same ones that you start experiencing. For the first 1 month or 2 months, the word sweetheart, darling, honey, babe will be actually renting the air. Because at that point in time, the heat of the moment says that you are loved. But one thing I want to remind people is that just like you had that heat of moment when you are loving your spouse, which continually diminished over time, it will be the same thing that will happen to this new other relationship that you have had unless something drastic happens. So cheating is one of the things that has made men to leave their wives. And even as I speak, I tend to think that the same case happens to women. So even wives, when they find that their husbands are cheating, they do the same. They feel that their trust has been betrayed. And the pain is actually mutual because both parties feel it. Number two is and of course, cheating is as a result of lack of commitment. If you're not committed to that marriage, if you're not committed to that institution called marriage, then I can tell you at a confidence level of 99.95% that this marriage is going to hit the rock bottom. Lack of communication. Many couples don't communicate in their homes, and if they do, they only communicate when they have issues. When you hear that the wife has said, I would like to have a talk with you, or on the other side the same, the husband says, I want to have a talk with you. Those talks are not friendly more often than not. They are actually trying to bring out what we call some very disgusting issues pertaining to your marriage. And then, why men leave their wives is what we call outrageous expectations. Outrageous expectations. Yes, we all have expectations in life, but not all expectations are met. And if they were to be met, it is gradually, because life is not an event. Success is not an event. Acquisition is not an event. It's a process. And within a process, we can't ignore the element of time. We can't ignore the mobilization of resources, which ranges up to and not limited to money, time, commitment, and other things. So outrageous expectations has also made men to leave their wives, because there are those wives who make very high demands that cannot be met by any individual. The other thing is that those two people, the husband and the wife, are not sexually compatible. They are people, by the way, for whatever reason that I do not have the authority to speak about, they are not compatible. They are totally incompatible. That no matter how much you try, something is not adding up. You realize that even when you go to do that you were given blessings to do either by the parents in terms of marriage, where customary marriage, by even what we call the Christian marriage, that is through what we call the unofficiated marriage, things don't work out. So when this man realizes that he's not sexually compatible to the wife, then automatically the man takes a leave and the marriage is actually dissolved. Absence of intimacy. There are people who do not know how to handle their men. There are women out there who do not know how to handle their men at all. When they see a man, they see a provision machine. They only see a man as only an avenue or a conduit or a conveyor belt of bringing services home in terms of paying school fees, in terms of paying bills for the house, in terms of meeting the needs of the family members without being recognized in any way whatsoever by the wife. There are some wives who are like that. And I normally give an example of a donkey. A donkey is more important when it is carrying what we call goods from one area to another. When the donkey is carrying water, up to that point of getting water and taking it to the destination, it is so much respected. And wonder why it is called the burden of beasts. The beast of burden. But the question is, if you saw your man as a beast of burden, that you only value him because he pays school fees for you and bills, there will come a time when he'll get tired of it. And that is the time that now the man takes another route and goes to seek for solace elsewhere, and that marriage gets headed to the headweeds. It's something called, and of course, it is what we call even the physical intimacy. where even a woman, your wife, goes out there, finds a very good suit, a very good coat, a very good hat like this one of mine, and she decides to buy a present for the husband. Many women don't think about their husbands, and those who do, they are very few. So this is what you call even the physical intimacy. Even the way you adore your husband, the way you talk to him, the way you respect him, it means a lot, and that brings the glue that brings together, that bolts together that particular marriage. But more often than not, many women have no time for their husbands. As a matter of fact, you realize that sometimes women, they use an assumption that their man is equal to the task, and therefore there is no point of being honored. In that kind of a thinking, you lose your man. This is what we call reduced attraction to his wife. Some men leave their wives because either you have eaten too much and you no longer look the fashionable person that you were. You are out of shape. You don't just look admirable. You no longer look attractive. Your dressing code is so shabby. You dress in a manner that no one would like to walk along with you because you don't take care of yourself. You are so reckless and careless that even having a walk with you is a nightmare. That is another thing, that men want women who look fashionable. Men want women who take a bit of time to actually work up their game in terms of general physique, morphology, and anatomy. Reduced attraction to his wife also leads to a man looking for another side, looking to the other side of life that may offer that he was desiring to be having in life. When the man feels burdened by the marriage, there comes a time when the marriage becomes too cumbersome even to bear. For those people who understand vehicles, a vehicle has what we call tire weight. And this is something that many Kenyan people don't even understand. I've been seeing a motorcyclist carrying 10 men in the same motorcycle. That is lack of appreciation that whoever manufactured that particular motorcycle, he knew there's something called tire weight. That weight that this vehicle, even a pickup, even a lorry can handle, even a train can handle. So the moment you ignore blatantly the aspect of tire weight, you bring so many burdens to your husband without knowing how much does he earn, how many responsibilities does my man have in this particular compound. Then that one also becomes an easier route for man to leave his wife. The other thing is that they don't share any long-term goals. There are some women and there are some couples who have nothing in common. They don't share they have no shared values and goals. And therefore, everybody is pulling in his or her own direction. When people have nothing that brings them together, if a man is building a house, if a man is building some rental houses somewhere, if a man is building a residential house somewhere, it is very, very important that you take trouble, make sure that that particular individual, your husband, you are interested in what he's doing. You may not have a lot of money to help him, but whatever little you can do goes a long way in showing that you have that particular thought of your husband at heart. People who have long-term goals together, they live together. And that aspect of coming together opens up even communication and makes the bond more stronger. Now, the other thing that makes men to leave their wives is when both partners stop putting effort into their marriage. That nobody bothers, that you have actually put your marriage into an autopilot mode. That is where now the element of neglect comes in. That nobody bothers to know that a man can leave the house at 5:30 in the morning and up to that and up until midnight when the man comes back is when you have a communication. That during the day, the wife never bothered to call the husband and to ask him, sweetheart, how are you doing? How has your day been? How much does it cost for your wife to pick a phone and just to inquire how the husband is doing? And I can tell you that in the course of that day, this woman called the wife had made so many calls to his friends, to his family members, and he ignored the person whom she lives with in the house. That aspect of ignoring your husband, that he told you in the morning, I have left for Nakuru, and you can't even dare take a phone and make a call inquiring of his whereabouts, inquiring whether he took a cup of tea during break time or lunchtime, or how has the day been. That is also a very fertile ground for a marriage to disintegrate. And I want to ask people who have been in a relationship that is working, how many times do you make calls to that person that you love? Somebody that you feel that she touches your heart. For a man, believe you me, they are the simplest form of creation. Simplest form of creation. If you know the right button to press for your husband, he becomes one of the most loyal persons the world can ever produce. But if you ignore your husband, he left the house going to Mombasa, going to Uganda, going to Morocco, going to USA, going to UK, going to Dubai, and he was actually going out there not for leisure but to look for money to make your lives more bearable, and you can't pick your phone call. You actually took your phone and you started calling your mipago ya kado. You started calling those other private suitors who are actually in the periphery. That is what we call the recipe of a disintegrating relationship and marriage. Let me not overemphasize on that. The other thing is boredom. Boredom. That even when the husband comes home, the wife doesn't realize that the husband has come. There are women who behave in such a manner. The husband has come from a very long day and you don't even recognize that your husband has come. For those who are lucky enough, fortunate enough to drive cars, the man comes and hoots at the gate and the only person who turns up there is your last born daughter or your last born son. Oh, and to you, I'm telling you, your days in that marriage are counted. Men want to be appreciated. Husbands want to be appreciated. Husbands want to be treated with care, with fragility and attention. That's something else that makes marriages to break. Boredom. That the husband can come. You can't even bother to ask the kind of food that you could. What could it have cost you to make a phone call and ask your husband? Because nobody forced you into this marriage in the first place. You entered into this marriage deliberately. You are not coerced. Nobody coerced you. It was not a coercion. You deliberately, consciously entered into this marriage. And before you entered into this marriage, I would presume that you had walked a journey for what we call the courtship process to understand the kind of a person that you're getting married to. So if you allow boredom to set in, I can tell you once again that this marriage is headed to its dissolution. Absence of emotional stability. That aspect of being felt. That when the husband comes home, the first thing that a good wife does is to make sure that the husband gets comfortable. He's served with something, either a warm drink, maybe warm water, depending, and everything is prepared for him. And he is, I'm coming to that, and he's treasured, adored, and loved. That's something that brings what we call the sparks of a relationship in marriage to thrive. But if you ignore your husband, there is no emotional stability, then you're headed in the wrong direction. Then the other thing that makes wives to lose their husbands is when the woman tries to change the husband to be what she wants him to be. There is no way you are going to change a mature man to be what you think he wants to be. As a matter of fact, it's a brilliant woman or a brilliant wife studies her husband so well, because you can't change. See how much you can accommodate, and you do not have to start this journey of total transformation to your husband, because I can tell you it will not work. So if you try to change your husband to become the person you want him to be, you'll be in for a rude shock. See what you can do and work with what this man has in terms of attributes, and see how best you can convert his position, his studious position, to that brings joy and happiness in marriage. Another reason that makes men to leave their wives is being unable to handle the pressure of love. There are women who are actually, they are perennial demanding machines. They perennially demand. Even when a man has declared that he doesn't have money in his pocket, he is continually reprimanded for not giving more and more and more. And you know, many wives are never satisfied when it comes to matters finances. And they do not even bother to see or to understand how much money in an average atmosphere or space does my spouse make, so that you may be able to operate within a real reality, a real life situation, as opposed to assumption. Unable to handle the pressure of love. The other one is what we call absence of respect. There are some women who do not respect their husbands. If you are that kind of a woman who does not respect her husband, I can tell you for sure there are other women out there, single mothers out there, actually even praying to God that they can get anybody called a man in their lives to be there for them. There are women who are so stressing, that every time when they open up their mouths, they are not opening up their mouths to actually give what we call accommodation. It is only to do what? To reprimand and to use unprintable epithets to their men. And when a man's ego gets invaded, I'm telling you, the only solution that this man does is going out there to look for a woman who can accommodate him. Some women are very nagging, very nagging. The last but not least, I tend to think it is one of the strongest indicators that makes a man to start thinking of getting out of that marriage is when a woman compares her husband with other men. Women, be warned, be forewarned that the moment you compare your husband with another man, that becomes the genesis of dissolution of your marriage. And that becomes the motivator of a man to go looking for another woman who can understand him. I wish this discussion has helped you. For those couples who want me to meet them and talk to them about marriage and what can sustain marriage, I'm always available. For those people who are planning to marry and they need to be given what we call pre-marital counseling, I do. Kindly don't hesitate. You can call me on 0722 633 021. Please call me on 0722 633 021. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel and get to hear what it is that I say. May God bless you. I hope that lesson has benefited you. Shortly, I'll be coming on what makes women to leave their husbands. God bless.